Many people don't realize this, but the majority of the world is not connected to the internet. How do we get cost-effective, inexpensive, and reliable connectivity to the remaining 5 or 6 billion people in the world who don't have it?
Yeah, we could be up in an hour.
Project Loon is the idea that we could create a network of high-altitude balloons that float about 20 kilometers up, and through this network we can give the internet to the entire world. Our balloons are these great big round things, about 15 meters in diameter, but you'd have to have a telescope if you wanted to see one up in the sky. So here's the surface of the planet. From here, right up to about 10 kilometers, this is where rain happens, this is where mountains are, and pretty much all aircraft fly down here. Now, here's our little balloon up here. This is right around 20 kilometers, actually in the stratosphere. And the stratosphere is different because we tend to have layers of wind that go in very particular directions. And by moving up and down through these different layers, we can steer. So by catching the right wind, we can keep the balloons together enough to give good coverage on the ground.
We can sail with the winds and shape the waves and patterns of these balloons so that when one balloon leaves, another balloon is set to take its place.
The balloons communicate with specialized internet antennas on the ground. So this antenna here points up at the sky and talks to this balloon. And each one of these balloons talks to their neighboring balloons, and then back down to the ground station, which is connected to the local internet provider. What this does is it creates a network in the sky.
Let's carry on then. We need to get that antenna on.
We've designed our radios and antennas specifically to receive signals from Project Loon only in order to achieve the high bandwidth over long distances involved. If we didn't filter out the other signals, the technology just wouldn't work.
I got it.
The balloons are completely solar powered, and we control them through Loon Mission Control.
All right, I think your plan is great. Do the ascent on 46 and 47. Try it like an hour after float.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna be off the ground in a couple minutes.
Before we send them up, we talk to air traffic control. We let them know these balloons are on the way up so they know where they are. And before they come down, we also talk to air traffic control.
And they're on a different one now.
We can direct them to land in various collection points around the world in order to reuse and recycle their parts. Now, we have some ability to steer in general. However, in the stratosphere, most of the time, the winds actually flow from west to east. Because the winds generally circulate this way, we typically will have bands of our balloons that will be around the world at different latitudes.
So if the balloons are circling around the bottom half of the world, eventually the balloon that's over South Africa will pass over South America.
1, 2, 3.
Woo! We're using the sunlight, we're using the wind, we're using all of these things to build this network in the sky.
Project Loon is working to bring the technologies of access to everyone on the planet.
This is Twit.
Tell us the story. You got a strange email from Google last week.
Yeah, so they sent me a note and they said, we can't tell you what's going on, just sign. And I was like, well, and I knew it was Google X, so it's got to be cool. And they've only announced 2 Google X projects, you know, the self-driving cars and the glasses. So this must have been cool. And it was this Project Loon. And it was this audacious, ambitious idea to surround the world with internet balloons. And they wanted me to come along and take some photos and just kind of see what was going on. It happened to be here in my backyard. That's totally coincidental. So I jumped in a car with my family and drove a few hours north from Queenstown up here to the Christchurch area and joined the team and started taking photos. It was a blast.
So are these, first of all, they're in the stratosphere.
Yeah, so they're twice as high as commercial airlines, and there's basically nothing up there. There's no more weather, so they get solar power cleanly. And the big breakthrough about these balloons is that they can move up and down at various levels through the stratosphere. And as they move up and down, they can catch different air currents, so they can sort of keep this grid or matrix-like mesh, sort of Cartesian plane.
They're
that
not.
they can
They're
keep
not
going around the world.
They're not attached by a 10-mile string to the Earth.
No, they've got a valve on the bottom. It's actually a 2-chamber balloon, and the top chamber is filled with helium.
Okay.
The bottom one is filled with regular air. And by pumping air in and out of the bottom chamber, they can move them up and down,
Changing
and
the
they
density of the helium a little bit. But
Well,
that's
I think
that's
the
kind
helium
of
stays the same, but they change the weight of the balloon by pumping more air into the lower chamber.
I get it.
Yeah.
So that's something you can keep doing kind of for at least until the balloon wears out.
Yeah, so that's the big goal, is to not fill up the balloon too much so that it pops or that it gets
Yes,
these
that's a
holes in it. They're really trying to figure out a way to keep the balloons up there for a long time. But they have had balloons get up there and stay, for months and years. I mean, ballooning is sort of an old science. It's a tough science. So they're trying to get their balloons to stay up as long as possible.